Hey guys, welcome to another Frasier Friday. Dan here, Merlin over there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes known as Joe.
In some circles.
In some circles.
Most, actually.
Looking at season 5. We're up to season 5 on Frasier Friday. And we're going to do them in 2 chunks like we usually do.
Mm-hmm.
And then end with a season wrap-up. But before we even get to the episodes of season 5, we have to talk about the recent interview with Kelsey Grammer about, yes, this reboot does exist. Yes, it is happening. We are moving forward with it.
Well, I thought he was like somewhat vague, but still like it's definitely happening.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely, like when Paul Reiser was doing the circuit about Mad About You like a year ago, he was just like, I don't know. If they tell me to show up, I'll show up. But Kelsey Grammer is very steadfast. Like, this exists. It seemed like they were like shooting it already or something.
Mm-hmm.
I got that sense.
I think he said sometime next year.
And then I guess they're going to shop it to networks or streamers, and then next year, hopefully we'll see it.
Yeah.
It'd be great to coincide the 11 seasons of the original Frasier with the new one.
That would be cool, actually. Might be able to.
So I really am excited about that. And it's sort of what I had read about like a year ago, that it's going to be, he's in Chicago now, he's going to be trying to connect with his son. But there's no real note of who else is going to be on the show. He didn't really talk about Daphne or Roz, or, we assume Niles and Daphne are probably still married.
Hopefully.
Maybe with children of their own. But he did say that the Frasier's still on his quest for love. Obviously, John Mahoney is dead,
Sadly.
the actor, so we knew he wasn't going to be a part of it, but that's all we really know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, he was kind of vague, but also like saying, "Oh yeah, this is real." Like, it's definitely going on.
I can't really say, but it's going to be a thing.
And he looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
The episodes we're watching now are from a good 22 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And I think he looks pretty good now.
Yeah, I feel
aged a bit, but
he's aged a bit more in the past couple of years. I honestly feel like when he was doing his little...
When we saw Think Like a Man 2,
Year of Grammar,
Year of Grammar,
2014.
He looked pretty similar,
He looked about the same, so I feel like it's the last 5 years or so.
Well, I think he's letting the hair grow gray a little bit.
A bit more.
Maybe
less makop. We're seeing him in for that interview.
Yeah, it was like an outdoor interview. I thought you were going to come on and talk about Kubo for a second. But it's an inside joke from Merlin's channel. Love that weather interview.
It's probably one of my better ones.
But yeah, so it seemed like a pretty fast and loose kind of interview that they did.
What a interesting guy.
But
one thing about Kelsey Grammer I think is very interesting is I didn't know it, and it's weird when I'm researching things how a lot of great things can be backed up by a lot of more difficult things.
Yeah.
Kelsey Grammer has had a very, very rough
life.
And I'm just thinking, he plays such a great character with Frasier and channels that into such a funny comedic way. I think
which happens a lot of times.
Yeah, with comedy. Yeah. And I think that says a lot about his talent as an actor. Just some of the tragedy in his personal life that I just read about, like, oh, wow.
He's had a lot of stuff, even back from the Cheers days and before he was famous. And
before when he was famous.
Yeah.
It's been impressive.
It's been a road for him.
Yes.
No doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
So I look forward to that finally starting, hopefully next year.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about now season 5. This is from the great 97-98 TV season. And we're coming off a little bit of a rough season. I don't think you and I loved 4.
4? No. I thought 4 was honestly the weakest so
I think it's
far.
the weakest that we'd seen so far, but I'll tell you what.
This
is, for me, spoilers, this is way up there.
Okay.
I really enjoyed this season, so let's get cracking with it.
Okay.
So first up, we've got the season premiere is called Frasier's Imaginary Friend, and this is when Frasier falls for this model, Celia Ward, who we saw at the end of the last season, where he's at the airport, and she wants them to kind of keep everything a secret because she's famous and this and that. So as it turns out, nobody believes him.
It's a good gag.
I think this is really the season that not only are the farces front and center, but a lot of like mishearing things and like a lot of mistaken identities and stuff.
There's a lot of misunderstanding farce in this one, and they played with that before.
Season,
but you're right. This season
is heavy,
dominated, almost to the point where you're watching them like, wow, they're doing this again. There's a lot. They like playing around with that,
and yet the writers are great at it.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem as like hackneyed as Three's Company or something.
No.
It seems there's layers to it, like everything in Frasier.
Of course.
So I thought this was a great first episode. I think
was funny.
It was hilarious. I thought she did a great job.
Reveal at the end, of course, is great.
Oh, I love the end.
It's like, yeah.
Where she basically eviscerates him, but it's in front of his family, so he's like, "Hey, what do you think of me now?
I'm
She's
such
real.
a bad boy now, even though I said you're the worst person ever."
So I give it an A. I really thought it was a great season premiere.
Sounds about right to me.
Yeah. So up next we have The Gift Horse, and that is where the boys get the competition for who can get Dad the better gift. Niles ends up getting him a racehorse that he had or knew years and years ago on the police force. And I thought this was a good one.
That's more of a heartstrings pulling one.
Yes, it is. It is. They do some funny things with the Sherry character, who's present for most of this season,
Sherry,
or at least half the season, I guess. And that I can sort of take or leave.
I'm surprised you don't like her more than you, because I'm not a huge fan of her, and I thought I was just being kind of weird. You don't really think she works that well, do you?
I don't, and I get why they brought her on. She's
kind of blue collar.
Definitely blue collar. She's sort of a foil almost for the boys.
Yeah.
And even Daphne doesn't get along with her.
That's true.
That I think maybe is the part I don't like, because I can see like Martin not caring if his boys don't like her, but Daphne's also very blue collar.
Yeah.
So the fact that she and we meet her brothers later, who are very like, off the wall and sort of I don't know, working poor kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Sherry seems like that type of person. So the fact that she doesn't get along with her, I don't know. I feel like Martin should have taken that more to heed. But anyway, so no, I don't love that whole subplot.
Okay.
But so I gave this one a B+. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
The Sherry stuff is sort of hit or miss for me, but I liked, the competition with the boys is always fun.
One-upping is cool.
Yeah. So next is Halloween, and this is at the library benefit Halloween costume party. Niles is having some issues with some miscommunication of his own about Frasier and Daphne.
I really like this one.
I figured you would.
I like this one a lot.
I did too. Apparently, I gave it an A. It's been a few weeks since I've seen it. But
yeah, this one might be an A or maybe even an A+.
Is that right?
I thought this one was great because we got the...
what else happens in this
episode?
episode?
It's because the Ross being pregnant and then trying to kind of like keep that hidden.
Yes,
and
the whole and we've seen actually in this season alone a couple of Niles parties that sort of have these layers of miscommunication and
I love the miscommunication. Oh, you think who slept with who and it's your baby? What do you mean? I'm gonna like fight for her honor, and then wait, what do you mean my honor? And it's just like everybody thinks another thing about someone else.
And Martin thinks one thing, and
then of course Frasier is trying to do the right thing. It goes wrong, and then the end reveal is like Roz is just like, well,
blurts it out like always.
This is it, and then it's like okay, but it still kind of works out in the end.
Yeah,
which I like. Somehow cleanly.
Yeah. I do think this is a great episode.
It's very
telling of the whole season, really.
And I think you're right. It's a good example of later ones. Just the level of complexity with the writing of these jokes and planning the reactions and knowing the characters and how they like feed off each other chemistry wise. I think at this point you see a lot of those strengths.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, there aren't too many shows. I love a good sitcom. Whether it's a single camera or a laugh track show. There are very few shows that are this finely layered and still hilarious. Like, there's some that have layers like, I don't know, like Atlanta's a good example with Donald Glover. But that's not really, or Master of None. But, like, I don't find myself, busting a gut at those episodes. They're more like slice of life.
Dry humor.
Dry humor. Like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is maybe the only one I can think of that's on right now that is this dense with between jokes and storylines and gags and yet still so smart. And that's something I think Frasier excelled at.
Since I didn't really see as much Cheers, would you say that's just like a branch off of Cheers, or is it a little different? Because I always thought Cheers was a little more direct.
Cheers was definitely more like relational, I would say. I think, more of the jokes were situational, more like sitcom-y, I guess you could say. Whereas here, I think they're definitely more dense.
Okay, more dense with like different levels of layered jokes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and just smart writing. Not that Cheers' writing wasn't smart.
See, I think Cheers is a smart show.
Cheers is a smart show in a different way, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's plenty of examples of that, in other sitcoms, too. But yeah, I think this is a great episode. So next is The Kid, and this is where Roz finally tells the father, who we find out is, Joe Schmo from the Cafe Nervosa.
Yep.
And then Daphne gets some babysitting help there from Martin and Niles as she's trying to help out a friend. I thought it was an okay episode. I like that we learned who the father was, though.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know.
No.
And this is a few years before the whole Friends thing where Rachel gets pregnant. We don't know who the father of her baby is. And Roz is famous for sleeping around, and so there's some jokes about that. I thought it was decent. I laughed.
Yeah, it was alright. It was pretty good.
So I gave that one a B+. And then I know this is your favorite of the season.
Okay.
The 1000th show, where Frasier, because you've talked about this before we even started doing Frasier Friday, the Frasier Crane Day episode sticks with you.
All right.
So I want you to talk about this. I gave it an A. I do think it's probably top 10 Frasier episodes, but I want you to tell us about it.
This is because
you love it.
This is one of those Frasier episodes that when I reminisce about the show, I actively remembered it. And I couldn't remember what season it was, because I think it perfectly encompasses Frasier's character. How he tries to kind of put on all these airs and be sophisticated and but also try to be humble, because he wants to be this status of like this upstanding person. But at the same time, he really does want his day. He does want the acknowledgement, because he is really insecure. And once again, kind of just how the thing snowballs as he tries to get to the conference, to the award ceremony to celebrate Frasier Crane Day, and he just can't
do it.
And he and Niles are just stuck across town, getting into this different scenarios. And one thing I actually, watching it again, which I didn't actively realize, but I get, is that this, from like just a technical standpoint, is the most experimental, because we go outside the set, the studio. There's different camera angles. There's sweeping shots.
I'm like, it's I believe the only episode of the show that was actually filmed, at least in part, in Seattle.
That's really cool, like to show off the city, and I like that. Wow, like
it's almost a love letter to the city. This episode,
it is, and you see some of the landmarks, and like when they get on the monorail,
classic,
which is great. And I just liked that as I was watching it for a second. I forgot that I was watching a sitcom. I thought I might have been watching a feature film. Yeah. Like, they really...
It's very well shot.
The cinematography and editing in this is really good. And the more physical comedy, like when they go and they get mugged.
Oh my God, so good.
I don't like that happens off camera, but like I just... And I like the fact that even though, once again, Niles and Frasier are kind of trying to one-up each other, they still have insights for each other. They still care. And actually, now another thing that I think speaks to the heart and the humor of Frasier is when he goes last minute to try and get to his day, and he just decides to kind of sit and help another person.
Help this. Right.
And I'm like, that's what Frasier's about.
Well, and I think we see Frasier kind of fall on his butt so many times.
Oh, so many times.
And just in general, not just in this episode, but at his core, he really wants to help people.
He does.
The I'm listening thing. He really is a good guy, and I love that they ended the episode that way.
I think it's good to almost remind you, like, that is his strength, and that's why we keep coming back, because we know Frasier's a good guy, and he, despite his problems and his issues, he still tries to do the right thing at the end of the day.
Yep, absolutely.
Except when it comes to women, usually.
Well, yes, women is his Achilles heel. I think we know this.
It really is.
Sex is his Achilles heel.
Yes.
But good. I thought of you instantly. I was like, Joe's got to be the one to talk about this one.
I was so glad. Like, oh, it's this
Yeah.
one. I love Frasier Crane Day. Which, by the way,
Tell me.
they did celebrate it. We see at the end.
That's right. That's right. And he's singing "Toss Salad, Scrambled Eggs"
like a live version.
Yeah. Well, this is great because my favorite episode is also in this season.
Okay.
Which we'll get to, I think, in the next part. But so up next is, well, actually my least favorite episode of the season, Voyage of the Damned. That's when they go on the cruise ship.
Oh.
Martin and Niles is all depressed, and Frasier goes. Here's a couple things with this.
I got two things to say.
Okay.
When you're done.
Number one, one of the things when I'm thinking about the grades is how much these episodes stick with me, because this is probably my. I mean, I watched them when they were on at least once or twice in reruns, and then sometimes in syndication, and then, on Nick at Night or whatever. But this is at least the third time through just on the DVD set for me. And the most recent time was maybe 2.5 years ago, not long ago. Mm-hmm. If I can't remember an episode,
it's pretty bad.
It's bad. And watching this, I was like, I didn't, none of the jokes were like, oh yeah, I remember that. Nothing. It's a very bland episode. I don't really like that, the whole Niles Maris thing is, thank God it's going away in this season, but,
I thought
here it's at full swing.
The gag, I thought, with the bathroom was kind of funny.
It was okay. I guess I did remember that part.
I like the little stab about Frasier's celebrity, like kind of being a second-rate celebrity.
Especially after the whole Frasier Crane Day, so his ego was boosted and now shrinks back down again. But, so I don't fail it. It's a C+ episode for me, but it's very unmemorable. Mm-hmm. So what were your two issues with it?
Oh, I just told you two things about I liked, but
that you liked. Okay.
And I believe the dad did make some cracks about the food, right?
Yeah.
Something like that, basic stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, none of those were like jokes that really stuck out to me.
It's very run of the mill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's very forgettable.
Especially after the great Frasier Crane Day episode.
It doesn't help when the next episode is following a great one, is it?
Correct. And I just went through that with the Connors. I just had my first A+ of the Connors last week. And then this week's episode was good. But I knew it wasn't going to be on that same level because it's like, how many shows have 2 A+ episodes in a row? Not many.
It's unusual.
Yeah. Maybe Sopranos.
Or Breaking Bad or
Maybe
something.
Breaking Bad
something
towards
like
the
that.
end, yeah.
Maybe.
All right, so up next is My Fair Frasier. This is when, oh my God, Frasier is dating the attorney.
Oh.
And he's a bit upset by her lifestyle.
I like this
one. He basically, gets My Fair Ladied and ends up... sort of being in the cotillion of the wives.
He's the trophy boyfriend. I thought it was cool.
I thought this was a good one. Yeah, I gave it an A-. I thought it was funny. I always like when they turn certain perceived roles on their heads, especially with the Frasier or Niles character, because they're so highfalutin and I'm so important and here he's the doting boyfriend. Like you said, the trophy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I thought that was very cleverly done.
No, I thought the way they tackled that was good. I thought it was a little bit kind of ahead of its time in that sense. I mean,
actually, yeah,
tackling the ideas of the role of the man and some stuff about gender roles a little bit.
Right,
kind of touched on. I thought that was kind of fun.
I love when she gives him the watch.
And he's like, "Oh, I don't want your gift." Like, well, what is the watch? Like, actually, I think I will. Like, we don't really have to take it back.
He goes back in and shows all the women.
Yeah,
does anyone have the time? I thought that was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so up next, Desperately Seeking Closure. And it still includes the attorney, but he is trying to figure out why she left him. And he goes nutso psycho with the phone calls.
Tries to stalk her.
Yes.
That was good.
I thought that was very funny.
That was a good one.
I gave it a B+. These are a lot of really good episodes.
There's some good stuff here.
Not too much to say about that, but it was funny. And then we got the Christmas episode.
Mm-hmm.
Which is Martin's trying to sing this solo for the church and can't really... Oh! Oh my God! Every time he hits that high note, it reminds me just how much John Mahoney holds this show together as the glue. And then the guy upstairs keeps banging on the floor. I thought that was so funny.
It's very simple, but him not hitting those notes.
It was so good.
hilarious.
And then the other part is Frasier's shopping for Christmas presents, trying to find everybody just the right present. I liked it. It's not as good as some of their holiday episodes, but I thought it was another good one. It's an A-. Next is Where Every Bloke Knows Your Name. Something about this told me you would really like it. This is the one where Frasier goes to the local watering hole that is for Anglophiles, and Daphne, of course, fits right in.
That was really good.
She brings Frasier because he's down in the dumps, and he takes it on as his own.
Dan, you got me curious. Why did you think I'd like this one?
I don't know exactly. First of all, I think you love a good sort of British plot about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought you would find the juxtaposition of, straight-laced Frasier taking this bar on as his own. I don't know. I thought that would strike you as funny.
There was something very believable with the situation.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a friend, and you have something that's kind of special to you. Another person takes it on. You want to kind of help them, and then they kind of invite themselves too much.
Right.
Frasier's on the
very
situation.
Relatable for one thing.
It just seems like a very believable situation. Yeah. I also really like the fact that how Frasier ultimately ruins it for himself is hilarious.
As always.
And it was kind of, and I like the fact that Daphne was being a little more selfish than you thought, which is cool.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, a side of her that we've seen sometimes, but not usually with Frasier.
No,
with other things. But I love the callback to Cheers. Obviously, it reminded him, even though that was a Boston bar, not a British bar, but the camaraderie and all of that. Yeah. I think reminded him of that.
It's like, oh, this is the thing to get me on my ride, and it's Cheers, which I think is kind of
right.
It's
right,
Cheers.
It's exactly Cheers.
British Cheers.
Yeah. So I thought that was great.
Sidetracking a little.
Yeah, tell me.
Have you ever watched Coupling?
I've seen one episode of the BBC Coupling. Yes.
Well,
is it great?
I'm going to say to you, and we should probably do a video about this. I mean, you're like the sitcom guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have a couple of sitcoms I really like.
Mm-hmm.
And
you love a Britcom, though, for sure.
Coupling.
Maybe that's why I thought you would like this so much.
Coupling is one of, I think, the best sitcoms ever.
Do you remember they tried to do it here? Do you remember that? It lasted, I think, 6 episodes.
I didn't watch it, but
it was when Friends went off the air, NBC was like trying to poach things. And The Office worked for them, obviously, but Coupling did not.
It's weird because I think when it comes to just dating, relationships, romance, and sexuality, I think Coupling is the show.
Okay.
I really do. But I think the idea is universal, but maybe it's also the fact that it is British makes it a little...
I love a good sitcom.
And there's not many episodes, so I recommend, really, if you don't like Coupling, I'd be very surprised.
I have one of the seasons on DVD. I think it's season 2 or something.
And the opening theme is good, perhaps.
Well, I love a good opening theme.
So, okay. So maybe not quite the same.
I'll always do a Coupling video, for sure.
Do a Coupling sometime.
All right, so there's only 2 more episodes to talk about this show. That's Ain't Nobody's Business If I Do. I do in quotes. This is when Daphne finds an engagement ring in Martin's drawer, tells the boys about it, and they try to sort of figure out what's going on, convince him maybe that it's not the right thing to do to marry Sherry, da-da-da-da-da. He already figured that out for himself, and this is the last episode that we see Sherry. They decide to sort of break it off. They want different things. They hire the private detective in this one to kind of figure it out. They realize, oh my God, she's been married, 5 times or whatever it is. So I liked it. It was a B. I mean, there were some good jokes, but I thought the boys were kind of nasty in this episode, and I don't like that. I don't mind when they are fighting with each other, but I don't like when they just aren't showing good colors.
No. Especially when it comes to their dad.
Yeah.
Though I guess this was a sticking point for them anyway with her.
Yes, it was, which, it makes sense and everything. But I don't know. I didn't really like the way the characters went about it.
All right.
So finally is the Zoo Story, and this is the BB episode of the season.
This is a good one.
He, as we saw last season, ditched her as a client. Now she's representing Roz, among other people.
And he tries to get the nice agent.
And now he's got the Mr. Rogers type agent, and it turns into a disaster at every corner.
The Frasier crane.
The Frasier crane at the zoo. I thought this was funny. As in terms of BB episodes, it's certainly not.
It's not one of the best
my tops.
Yeah.
I gave it a B. I think it's serviceable for an episode, but not my favorite. But I thought it was funny. It had some good jokes.
I think it might not be as good because she's not in it as much.
Yeah, she's actually not. I mean,
Yeah.
But I like the storyline that they're keeping up.
Yeah.
At this point.
It's recurring.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the first half of the season. We've covered some good ground here.
Better than the last one so far.
Definitely better than the last one. My favorite episode is still to come for the season. I'm excited to discuss that. And then we'll talk about some other things as we always do. So join us for next Frasier Friday, which will be part 2 of the 5th season. Then we'll do sort of an overall, all-encompassing season review. But thus far, yeah, you're right. Definitely an improvement.
Agreed.
From the sad season 4.
Yeah.
So that's it. We'll talk to you next time. Bye. Thanks for watching.